What's up guys, I'm Dunmere, top 100 Overwatch main tank player, and I'm going to show you guys how to play Winston. So Winston's actually my favorite character in the game, and I spend a lot of time playing him and grinding him. But yeah, this character plays mainly for like diving backlines and trying to kill squishy healers or DPS that are too split from their team, and taking a lot of resources and attention and all that sort of stuff. Now, I'm currently playing at like the end of Iconwald here, so it might seem a little bit weird for Winston, but Winston also has a huge portion of it that's all about stuffing chokes and burning enemies in chokes. So that's what we're going to show here. Like every corner that I can get a nice little contest on, I'm going to go for it as long as I can, essentially, until I need to get out. Pump some damage to the enemies and call that good. Now when you do have your ultimate though, things change and your damage becomes a lot more capable, essentially. A lot more capable of getting sort of frags that you want, going for whatever you can. I wouldn't always recommend like going for like a far mercy like I just did, but it's an option, right? It essentially should be thought of as like a way to survive in certain circumstances, but really just to like allow you to go super hard, right? Whereas before, at a certain point, you kind of got to be like, all right, it's time to get out. I'm going too hard. In this, you have to kite, or you don't have to kite out with the primal, right? Or jump out. So, like I said, choke points, whenever the enemy walks through here, it's really dangerous because they have to clump up. And so that's where we want to keep them in as long as possible. We want to pump damage into them. So right as they come around the corner, I'm going to stay here, put as much damage into them as possible. If I'm taking too much damage, I'm going to back up, but I'm kind of tentatively okay here against these guys. If you can get someone stuck in your bubble like I just did, it'll block like most healing to them. Everything except for like mercy healing will get blocked by your bubble, so you can use that to like split healings on enemy, but that's a little bit more of like an advanced topic, so I wouldn't mainly use that as your primary source of like decision making. I would mainly use it for I almost got him. I would mainly use it to just block damage on yourself and primarily stuns. So any character that does have a stun is going to be very powerful against you, so you're going to be really careful about making sure you're using your shield to block that. For example, if you're playing into like an Ana, and Ana comes around the corner, you want to make sure you bubble at that time, right? Since this character can play so aggressively, oh, I got too far, dang. You can have like multiple contests like I did. Like you stuff them up here, and then you kite them back to the next corner, you kite them back to the next corner. It's a main tank thing in general, but you're going to want to be using it to like consistently stuff enemies at multiple chokes like that. If something does end up like going too far away though in a choke, you don't just have to stand here like brawling the front line. You can go for a backline dive. I just wouldn't really like recommend doing it all the time or anything, just because you are vulnerable when you do that. Like yeah, they did buff the tanks, but they kind of buffed Winston the least out of any of the tanks, I think. Maybe I guess Sigma didn't really get any changes, but you only have 550 HP. It's a little bit more, but it's not like, you know, it's not a huge difference, right? On this character though, there's something really important that you should focus on, which is to get a good burst combo in. The burst combo essentially lets you, instead of just hitting for like a slam and then for a like the slam into the punch, you hit for a slam into a punch, or you hit for the zap you charge up right here into the slam into the punch, and you can animation cancel your punch with your landing, or your landing with your punch. So it's very useful to do. It's a pretty common Winston tech, so I'm sure a lot of you guys already know that, but now you can combo it with this ability to get a lot of extra value out of it. So that I have my primal, I'm gonna think about going for their backline. See if I can go for like whatever's up here. I guess Sojourn's pretty free for me to try and kill her. Zenyatas are also very free. So, like I said, you can force those dives when you ult. Basically, having the ability to ult essentially will let you just force a primal, or like force a dive onto the enemies when you can. And anytime that you can be putting damage onto like a squishy enemy, you should be trying to do that. Especially against tanks. Like, there's times to go for tanks. Like if it's against a Sigma, you can completely just take it out of the game. but tanks are a lot stronger now and your damage isn't buffed, so you will gain a lot less value farming off of them and stuff like that than you did before. So alright guys, so in this round we're going to talk about Winston more from like a diving perspective. While the whole diving and choke stuffing and all that does kind of end up molding together, there is a huge component of Winston that's just all about diving a target. So after I can finally see what the enemy has, we're going to dissect them and see, like, you know, what we want to be trying to dive onto. So, you know, as soon as I say that, of course we end up stuffing them in the choke, right? But it's really important to take advantage of that when you can. Later on, they're probably going to like try and walk through main. If they walk through main, then that's when things are looking divey. And if they end up just keep playing through high ground, it's going to be, you know, the same thing we were covering earlier. But yeah, so we'll see how it goes. There's two main opportunities when you do want to dive something. You can basically dive whenever there's something, whenever it's safe enough, right? So if the enemy goes through choke and they're rotating, they can't really put a lot of damage into you. So it's a great time to jump onto them and like play this new little box that they added here. When they walk through high grounds, obviously it's a good point. And when they walk through chokes, it's obviously a great time to dive in if you're not there. That's because you can then use the corner and you'll be tanky enough to just burn them through here. You can use the ceiling to like jump off of it right now and just put damage into them and split them. Like, as you can see, they walked through thinking that I left, and I, you know, I didn't, right? So we get free farm on them. And just like I saw right here, the Zenyatta is my main target on their team, so I saw him alone and I decided to dive that. And now, just like I did with the Zenyatta, I'm going for the Hanzo. Probably didn't need to use that, but guaranteeing that you live sometimes is worth it. Where'd that guy go? I can knock him off the map. No way, man. Your jump has a little bit of knockback, so you can knock them off the map pretty frequently. So looking at their team composition, the Brig is probably the most diveable thing on their team. It is now, which seems a little bit weird, but Brig is honestly the most diveable thing in the comp a lot of times, just because of the fact that she does have the least ability to escape. Like Kiriko, if she uses her little jump ability, is definitely diveable. But before that, not really. So you have to be more cautious about that. You should always be thinking about basically like what your engagement trigger is. And an engagement trigger could honestly be as simple as seeing, like, you know, the Zenyatta split from its team, or seeing the enemy, like, you know, chugging on through choke here like this. Or it can be something like you're on hitting a fat nade in the enemy. It could be something like your Kiriko popping her ult and having it so you could just walk in and spam your ultimate, or sorry, spam your cooldowns and do a bunch of extra damage. It's just basically like what's going to let you push into the enemy and damage them. You basically want to be juggling the idea of farming as much damage onto the enemy as you can as possible, so hitting as many people as you can, and also the idea of hitting as many and targeting the squishies the most, because, you know, 60 damage onto the Zarya is killer what in like 9 seconds if she weren't to heal herself at all, but onto a Zenyatta I can heal her in like 3.5, go in 3.5. So you get a lot more value out of that, especially because they don't have the ability to defend themselves as much. And so whenever you're diving a support, even if you're not getting a kill, you're getting a lot of resources pulled onto them. So the support's gonna have to look at them. Maybe the Zarya will turn around and like give a bubble, and that's really what you want to be doing on Winston. Before the fight starts though, you do want to be poking, because you do get healed pretty consistently in this game. So you don't need to worry too much about like taking too much damage before the fight starts. And sometimes you just need to jump out and go to thing. When die their backline though, there's another thing you can do on this character is just kind of guess sometimes where their backline is. Like, you don't always have to know where they are to just kind of go for them. Logically, you can assume that wherever their tanks are, their supports are very, very likely to be around in that area. And so when the enemies like split up like they were and some people were pushing through and all that, you can kind of push forward and consistently get a lot of value on something. And again, you saw there, like, it's kind of a little bit more of a tricky one, but there was a condition that was triggered there, which is the Pharah not having her Mercy with her. You don't want to like commit super hard for that, but you will also be able to consistently kill something if a Pharah is on with her. Especially now that you can actually go for long distance damage. In these little fights though, you really do want to be targeting Mercy as much as possible. Just because she's gonna be the one thing that you can actually kill. Like, yeah, when she ends up using her ultimate, it becomes unkillable, which is why I kind of think Mercy's busted. But she's still the main thing to go for. You just have to try and ult track in your mind, like, does she have her ultimate, essentially? Ooh, this guy's, I think I have my pings bound. So I don't have my bubble up yet, so I'm not going to quite dive in yet. But now that I do, I'm going to go for it. See if I can frag with Mercy. You don't ever want to jump in without your bubble unless it's like a very safe dive. But if you're at risk really like at all, it's just not worth it. When you're on defense and you're sitting here like taking a look at like what the composition of the enemy or what the enemy's going to throw at you, kind of think about like where they're going to go from. So generally you can look at their composition and see where they'd want to go. Like if they're ball comp, they're going to probably go from like one of the sides or underneath or something like that. But you need to pay attention to like where they're going to come from. And it usually has to do with like what their DPS are or what their tank is, like where their tank can play from. And then when they go there, you just dive through them. And then you get grabbed. When you are in grab, if you're not able to actually hit anything, then just make sure you're like looking away or shaking your head as much as possible. So you take a lot less damage. There is a little bit of a trick you can do that's pretty commonly known for like getting extra damage in. When you're fighting against one character, your punch, if you weave it in like this, does exactly the same amount of damage as your primary fire, but you can get like twice as much basically ammo out of it. So don't really want to face tank against a Reaper. But you scout them, looks like they're going main. I'm going to dive as soon as I can again into the backline. Even though I ended up landing on a Reaper. A little bit tragic, but you can survive still, even if you do make a jump onto something that you don't normally have a good chance against. As you can see here, this is why I say to focus Mercy first. Although this Mercy totally just left her Rico to die. But in that circumstance, there's just honestly nothing you can do. Like I literally, when she's ulting, can't out heal. When she's focused on a single person on my team, I can't stop her from doing anything. So you will die in a lot of circumstances. Or so you won't die, you just won't be able to kill it. It's like, yeah, you're kind of taking resources, but when it's against a Mercy when she's ulting, you're literally doing 0 net damage, so you're not going to have any ability to actually like do anything. If you're looking for some more Overwatch 2 content, then make sure to check out these videos I have right here. Like I said, I'm a top 100 Overwatch player, so I have lots of videos and things to share with you guys.